The air was hot and thick. Each breath felt like taking a sip of hot soup. The jungle was alive with calls and caws, chittering and squawks, the sound of 1,000 different creatures. It was an assault on the senses, but still not enough to distract from the heat. "It's been 2 goddamned weeks," said Grognak, "and we found nothing." The burly half-orc shifted his pack, his brow dripping with sweat. "This payout better be worth it." He looked at his fellow adventurers. Kenthiel was scratching behind one of his pointed ears, looking at the map for what must have been the 1,000th time. Rasheda kept one hand firmly on her bow as they trudged forward, her dark eyes scanning every inch of brush for any unwanted guests. Brunwyn took a long sip from her water skin. "Dwarves aren't meant for this mess," she panted. "Give me the dry heat of a forge any day, but I dunno how much more of this I can take." The lean and muscled shoulders of the bunch were hunched over in exhaustion. The jungle was clearly taking its toll. Still, each leg, tall and short, continued moving one in front of the other, stopping every now and then for a sip of ever-dwindling water or a glance at the seemingly ever-changing map. On one of these stops, Grognak pulled out a small silver pocket watch, looking mournfully at the initials lovingly carved in the back and looking morosely at the cracked watch face covered in dried blood. "If only the others could be so lucky," Grognak thought to himself. He quickly shoved the watch back in his pack. "I don't understand. We should be right on top of it." The elf tossed off his pack, which hit the ground with a thud and a muffled clank of meticulously positioned pots and pans. "We followed the map precisely," Kenthiel groaned, flicking the parchment with the back of his hand. "The jungle has a way of taking back what belongs to it. We'll be lucky if we find them at—" Rasheda stopped mid-sentence, a loud snap ringing through the air. Everyone dropped low to the ground, ready for another attack. They weren't about to let whatever was coming through the trees get the drop on them this time. "Wait, goblins?" Brunwyn whispered, as 5 short, slender, ruddy-skinned figures emerged through the brush. "Maybe we can ask for directions." One of the figures pointed in their direction, jabbering away in a gravelly language Grognak couldn't understand. Another raised a long reed to its lips, blowing a puff of air into it and sending a feathered dart right towards them. A string of arcane syllables leapt from Kenthiel's lips as a sphere of purple energy surrounded Brunwyn. The dart was repelled, landing harmlessly in the dirt. "I'm afraid, Winnie, that these lot aren't the direction-giving type." A jet of flame erupted from his fingertips, engulfing one of the goblins. Another raised its spear, then went rigid as an arrow embedded itself in the goblin's left eye. Rasheda silently knocked another arrow to her bow. "All right, ye lot, we mean business," Grognak bellowed, adjusting his stance. "But we can play nice as long as you do the same." The goblins looked in Grognak's direction, then back at each other. "Perhaps I will be proven wrong," Kenthiel mused, lowering his right hand ever so slightly. The 3 remaining goblins looked at each other, their pointed yellow teeth moving upward into indecipherable grins. Without warning, the little tricksters pulled their dark leather bottoms down, ruddy red rumps out for all to see. The 4 adventurers momentarily let their guard down, befuddled by the bawdy display. The goblins, taking advantage of that moment of incredulity, quickly pulled their breeches up and puffed one last blow dart towards the group before scampering away. There was a pause in the hot and humid air as Grognak looked at the small dart in his shoulder. Ripping the small barb from his skin, Grognak crushed it in his hand and pulled out his 2 hand axes. "That's it," growled Grognak. "They're dead." "No, wait," yelled Rasheda. "There could be traps." But Grognak was already rushing in the direction of the goblins. Grognak crashed his way through the jungle, vines and branches clawing and snatching at his face and clothes. His blood was boiling with rage, and each snag and prick was a precious moment lost in his pursuit of those gods-damned goblins. Suddenly, the thick foliage gave way to an open clearing. He could see rounded stone walls that formed around a gladiatorial stage, its cobbled stone floor marred with streaks of dried blood and long discarded bones. Grognak heard his companions come to a stop behind him, catching their breaths as quickly as they could. Then they heard it. The roar of a crowd. There must have been 100 of them, perched on ancient columns and filling crumbling amphitheater seats. Goblins. All sporting the same reddish hue as the ones they were chasing. "I told you to watch out for traps!" Rasheda was right, as usual. A booming voice filled the ruins, speaking the same teeth-grinding language Grognak had heard before. "Elf, translate!" he snarled. Welcome, esteemed guests," Kenthiel stammered, trying his best to keep pace with the steady chattering of the voice. "To the court of Queen Pick'em Stick'em." The group looked up towards the ancient boxes, constructed long ago for royalty and the wealthy. The once filigree-adorned columns were now covered in skulls, tied together by ropes and garnished with filth. The goblin sitting in the seat of honor was a portly creature with a beastly set of yellow gold teeth. She sat underneath a gnarled crown and a staff embellished with gunk-smeared jewels and gems. "So he found the damn place after all," Brunwyn muttered. "Didn't expect it to be under new management." "You are welcome to earn your freedom, provided you play by our rules. Rule 1, survive. Rule 2, make it entertaining." "Make what entertaining?" Rashada wondered out loud. The ground began to tremble. A huge set of stone doors at the far end of the arena began to swing open, the sound of metal on stone grinding together, piercing the air. The group tried to turn back before whatever was making that rumbling came out to join in on the games. But their path out was blocked by rust-colored goblins, stacked one on top of the other, all wielding sharp, ivory-tipped spears. Out of the darkness lumbered a huge, green-skinned creature. Each of its 3 eyes was partially hooded, with 3 goblins perched behind them on leather harnesses. The creature opened its toothy maw and let loose a low roar, thrashing its 2 massive tentacle arms, flinging the loose, cobbled stones across the arena. The goblin riders were pointing towards the groups, shouting towards each other and adjusting the hoods. The beast took a thunderous step forwards. "Gods help us," Rashada said, reaching towards her quiver. Brunwyn readied her war pick in one hand, the other clutching the symbol of an iron anvil that hung around her neck. "Oh, Father, hear my prayer," she whispered breathlessly. Kenthiel raised his spellbook, tracing a few sigils in the air as a tentacle shot towards him. His incantation was cut short as he felt himself in a rubbery grip. Before he could try to get his footing, Kenthiel was pulled forward, letting out a shriek. The creature moved its prize closer towards its hungry jaws. Grognak gripped his axes tight. "No more," he panted. "Not one more soul lost under my watch." He dug in his heels, inhaled sharply, then pushed off from the ground, leaping towards this new foe. "Smile for me, you slippery bastard! I'll be the last thing ye ever see!"
Thanks for joining us on Browsing the Bestiary. Be sure to subscribe for more episodes and check out our Patreon at Browsing the Bestiary, all one word.
There you can keep up to date on any new pod-related announcements, access reference pages for each episode, and download character sheets for characters featured in our story times.
And if you're something of a lore master yourself, you can offer us corrections for any facts we got wrong. If you catch something we missed, you may get a shout out in a future episode.
Remember to cite your sources.
I'm Dungeon Mistress Jade.
And I'm Lore Master Andy.
Until next time, may your dice rolls be high
and your adventurers ever prepared.